चैतन्य तद्धाम वृंदावन रम्या काचिदुपासना व्रजवधुवर्गेण तया कल्पिता श्रीमद्भागवत पुराणमयम् प्रेम पुमार्थो महान् श्री चैतन्य महाप्रभोर्मतैदम् नायत्रयाग्रहपरः वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरो श्रीयुतपदकमलम् श्रीगुरो वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगण रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवम् साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजन सहितं श्रीकृष्ण चैतन्य देवं श्री राधा कृष्ण पादा सहगण ललिता श्री विशाखा वितांश्च जय 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 श्री चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद जय द्वैत चंद्र जय गौर भक्त वृंद जय जय श्री चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद जय द्वैत चंद्र जय गौर भक्त वृंद जय जय श्री चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद जय द्वैत चंद्र जय गौर भक्त वृंद नवनीरद निंदित कांतिधरम रससागर नागर धूपवरम शुभवंकिमचारु शिखंड शिखिम भज कृष्ण निधिं व्रजराजसुतं राधिका सरोदेन्दु निंदिमुख मंडली वंदिये श्रीपाद पद्म नंदिनी वंदिये श्रीपाद पद्म वृषभानु नंदिनी वंदिये श्रीपाद पद्म वृषभानु नंदिनी। रासेश्वरी श्रीमती राधा रानी की जय। रसराज श्री नंद नंदन राधिका रमण की जय। परम करुणा पहु दुईजन निताई गौर चंद्र सबय अवतार सार शिरोमणि केवल आनंद कंद भजो भजो भाई चैतन्य निताय सुदृढ़ विश्वास कोरी विषय छाड़िया से रसे माजिया मुखे बोलो हरि 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 हरि। श्री चैतन्य चरितामृत की जय हो। कृष्णराज कविराज गोस्वामी ठाकुर की जय हो। ब्रह्म मत गौड़ीय संप्रदाय आचार्य गुरु वर्ग की जय हो। इस डिवाइन ग्रेस एसी भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय। गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि बोल। Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol. Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol. Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Welcome to the Bhakti Vedanta Bhagavad group. Today is Sunday, the 27th of February 2022. Very auspicious month, appearances and disappearance of many, many wonderful, great transcendental personalities. Last week we had dedicated our program to His Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada. And today we will be continuing into the wonderful conversation between um, the most munificent avatar incarnation of the Supreme Lord, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and one of his most intimate associates, Rayaramananda. If one understands this particular conversation, or at least tries to assimilate the summum bonum or the fundamentals of this particular conversation, it is the opinion of the great personalities that one would be bestowed with that utmost mercy of the highest principle of theism, which is prema or love. But what kind of love? Unparalleled, a zenith, a crescendo that is only the domain of the milkmaids of Vrindavan, the gopis, and amongst them the most special gopi, Srimati Radharani, the eternal consort and the internal potency, blissful potency of Sri Krishna, known as the Haladini Shakti. Very briefly, I will mention the events so far. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, after leaving his home, taking the renounced order, he had made his place of renunciation Jagannath Puri. And in Jagannath Puri, he had many, many intimate associates surrounded by him. And one of the most scholarly, erudite personalities, known as Sarva Bhattacharya, who was also the guiding head of that kingdom under King Pratap Rudra, when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu decided to go on a pilgrimage, he requested Mahaprabhu, when he reached the southern part of India, to meet Rai Ramananda. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, while after he left Jagannath Puri, he went all the way from the northeast side of India walking. He came down south to a very, very ancient temple of Lord Nrsingadev, known as Jiyad Nrsinga. And that region today is known as very close to Vishakhapatnam. Lord Chaitanya, upon entering the temple and taking darshan of Lord Nrsingadev, he went into ecstasy. He chanted and danced in ecstasy. And that evening being late, he, at the request of the priest, he resided in the temple. And early next morning, he was all excited, not knowing what direction he would go. Obviously, he's the Supreme Lord. He knew, but for the sake of the pastimes, it is understood. Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami writes that when somebody is in ecstasy, they forget their external consciousness or behavior or their senses. And he did not know which direction to set off, but he came to the banks of Godavari in the kingdom of Vidyanagar, the southern portion that was governed by Rayaramananda, who was the governor. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when he appeared on the banks of the holy river Godavari and the surrounding forest, it reminded him of Vrindavan. The Godavari reminded him of the Jamuna, and the forest surrounding that part reminded him of Vrindavan. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu again danced and chanted in ecstasy. This is the amazing part. No matter where we are, we can always remember the holy places, Vrindavan Dham, the pastimes of the Supreme Lord. When we look at any river, our consciousness should be transformed to Jamuna. And if we look at a mountain, our consciousness we should start remembering Govardhan. If we are passing through a forest, we should feel that we are in Vrindavan. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, Jatha Vaishnava Gane Shai Sthan Vrindavan. Vrindavan Dham is not only a geographical location, but it is also a consciousness. And those who have that consciousness of eternal consciousness of Vrindavan are eternally blessed. Whether they are physically present in the domain of Sri Vrindavan, geographically speaking, or no matter what part of the creation they are in, simply if their consciousness is thinking, feeling, and willing of Vrindavan, they are indeed blessed. That same evening, Rai Ramanand, who is the governor of that province, as his daily ritual and custom, he used to come to the banks of the Godavari to take a bath. And he came with many priests who are scholarly, who knew the Vedas very well, perfectly, who pronounced all the different verses in the scriptures very nicely. He was accompanied by musicians. He was accompanied by security guards. He was accompanied by many of his associates. And at that time, Rai Ramanand saw in a distance that there was a very effulgent personality dressed in saffron, a sannyasi, whose effulgence was more than 1,000 or millions of suns. He was immediately attracted and he approached this great personality, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. As soon as he was close to him, he offered his prostrated obeisances. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu knew who he was. As a matter of fact, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was eagerly waiting for Rai Ramanand to come. And upon seeing him, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu immediately got up and picked him up from his prostrated obeisance posture and gave him a tight embrace. Both the Lord and the Lord's servant or associate, they were in ecstasy. Tears of ecstasy flowed from their eyes, and there were different Sattvic vikars, 8 different kinds of symptoms showed up on their body. There was shivering, there was horripilation, standing of hairs, streams of tears flowed like rivulets from their lotus eyes. Faltering of the voice. They were stupefied, as if they were paralyzed. There was discoloration, paleness of the body. And all these different symptoms only signify pure ecstasy. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself, in the last chapter of Chaitanaya Charitamrita, in the 20th chapter, the golden divine volcano of love, Mahaprabhu himself, as described just like a pure golden volcano, when it burst, golden lava emanated in the form of the Chaitanya Sistastakam, the 8 verses. Last year we had dedicated 22 weeks, 22 Sundays, trying to dive deep into the Chaitanya Sistastakam, the verses, the 8 verses, the teachings of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the Samam Bonam that glorifies the holy names of Sri Krishna and that glorifies the ultimate goal of life, which is love, love, and love of Sri Krishna. And what kind of love? The highest love that Sri Radharani feels. The topmost gopi in Vrindavan feels for Krishna. So Mahaprabhu says, Nana galada shrudharaya vadanam gadgad hridaya gira pulakir nichitam vapu kada tava nama grihaneshu bhavishyati. Taking a very humble position, he says, when will that day come? When I chant the holy names, my eyes will be permeated with rivulets or rivers of tears. Vadanam gad gada. When will my body tremble? Rudaya gira. When will my voice choke up? Pulakir nichitam vapu kada. When will hairs on my body stand on an end? Horripilation. Tava nama grihaneshu bhavishyati. When I chant the holy names. So we see these symptoms. We also need to pray in that mood that, my dear Hara, O Radharani, O Vrajvasis, Krishna, my dear Krishna, my dear Rama, O Radhika Ramana, the lover of Sri Radha, the one who is sporting with Radharani, one who humors Radharani, please bless me. Upon taking your holy names, may these symptoms manifest. We think we are devotees. How many of us feel like that when we are chanting the holy names? How many of us feel that kind of ecstasy when we meet devotees or in anticipation of going to Krishna's Dham, or in anticipation or just feeling that consciousness of Sri Vrindavan and the pastimes, the holy names, the Leela or the pastimes, the paraphernalia. Like Nanda Baba and Yashoda Mai, mother of Krishna, when Krishna was gone, when he had gone to Mathura, when they saw the clothes of Krishna, the paraphernalia, when they saw the flute, tears of ecstasy would flow in their eyes, simply thinking of all the paraphernalia, looking at the paraphernalia of Krishna, feeling deep separation. The gopis simply thinking that in going to the forest, thinking that, oh, Krishna's here. Here he is. And one of the gopis would embrace a dark tree, a tamal tree, thinking it is Sri Krishna. In the craziness and ecstasy of love. And they would all get together, and one would dress up like Krishna, and the others would steal that flute from that gopi who is dressed up like Krishna, in the consciousness that that gopi is Krishna. Radharani would talk to the bumblebees. You are also a friend of Krishna. You are Madhusudan. And your friend has got the same qualities of Krishna, of you. Madhu means honey, and Sudan means to extract. So a bumblebee, especially a very expert bumblebee, Madhusudan, goes about hopping from one flower to another sweet flower, extracting honey. And the whiskers or the of the bee is permeated by the pollen. And our Rasikacharyas have given a wonderful, a very apt name to Krishna, Madhusudan. Why? Because even Krishna goes from one gopi to another gopi in the Madhurya Rasa. And when he comes back to Radharani, Krishna has the remnants of the lips that he has kissed the other gopis with their lipstick, or the kumkum powder, the vermilion that is spread on their chest. Just like a husband who is caught cheating, he's got the telltales of the perfume on his clothes and the mark of lipstick on his different parts of his body. Krishna is like that bumblebee. He goes and he is the transcendental debauchee. Ashlishyapada ratam pinashtu mam. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu uses the word pinashtu, a debauchee. But he's transcendental. Very few devotees can understand why he does that. In the social norms, it is very difficult to even accept a person who simply cheats on his girlfriend or his wife. But here Krishna does that. So these things will be understood as we move along in this high subject matter of Chaitanya Charitamrita. The pouring, the outpour of Kasturi Manjari, who is none other than Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, under the guidance of, personally guided by Vrindavan Das Thakur, the author of Chaitanya Bhagavat, and Lochan Das Thakur, the author of Chaitanya Mangal, and by Madan Mohanji himself, the enchanter of Cupid, and Govind Dev Ji, and Gopinath Ji on the banks of Radhakund. The Brahmins were watching from far. What is happening? Here is our master, Rayaramananda, who is such a great scholar. And here he is in ecstasy, rolling on the ground, both of them hugging in tears. They've never seen anything like that. They were shocked. They were scholars of the Vedas. How could they understand what is prema? What is love? Vedesha durlabham adurlabham atma bhakto govindamadi purusham tamaham bhajami. Lord Brahma mentions in the Brahma Samhita, it is impossible, durlabh, extremely rare, to get the love of Godhead by simply studying the scriptures. Vedeshu durlabham adurlabham atma bhakto. But it becomes very easy when one is permeated with pure love, with bhakti. And those who do not have bhakti and are simply spending their time and their existence in studying the scriptures on a scholarly, on a mental platform or an intellectual platform, they will never obtain the love, because it is kind of the last snare of Maya. Yes, Gyan, knowledge, and renunciation, Vairagya, are required to a certain extent. But if that does not culminate into pure devotion, then it is Shrama eva hi kevalam. It is simply fruitless labor, where one can be so lost that the illusory energy of Krishna, known as Maya, will affect those persons, making them eventually think that they themselves are God, or there is no God, everything is just energy, Brahmavads and Mayavads, etc. The Brahmins not able to understand, but eventually Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Rayaramananda, they curtailed their ecstasy once they saw that there were other people at a distance, and perhaps that will be misunderstood by them. Rayaramananda introduces himself. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says that, yes, I was asked emphatically to meet you by Sarva Bhattacharya when I was in Puri. And Rayaramananda takes a very humble stance by saying that, yes, he is my master and he always thinks good of me. I am indeed a very fallen person, a Shudra, a very ignorant person born of a lower caste. Why did you embrace me? And like that, taking a very humble stance. Rayaramananda, who is none other than one of the most intimate associates of Sri Radha, eternally Vishakha Sakhi. We spoke about humility. We all need to. Myself, I am first in line, I say. When will that day come? When the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, in the form of Radha and Krishna combined as Mahaprabhu, his most or her most intimate associates, if they can display such humility, what are we learning? We all want that prema. It's like that person who wants, materially speaking, all the material opulences, the best cars and the best houses, and millions and billions of dollars, but is not qualified materially, not educated enough. So it just is a dream, or more or less an illusion. We think we are devotees. This is devotion. This is the epitome of humility that has been displayed by the Lord and the Lord's most intimate associates. Rayaramanada says, Mora sparshe na korile gruna vedo bhoyo mora darshan toma vede nishedhoyo. Mora sparsho na korile gruna veda bhoyo mora darshan toma vede nishedhoyo. Mora sparsha, touching me. You should not be touching me. No korile. Gruna, as a matter of fact, it is contemptuous to touch somebody as fallen as me, as per the injunctions of the Vedas. Even looking at me or even seeing me is contemptuous. Toma Vede Nishedaya. And the Vedas, the scriptures forbid that. So here there is a display of the social norm or the etiquette. There is a fine balance that one should, from this verse, we find that there is a fine balance. Here, the servant of the Lord or the eternal associate of the Lord is saying, please don't touch me. I'm very fallen. I'm born in a very low-class family. Low class means those who do not develop Krishna consciousness. They are known as low class. Simply those who are eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. Those who live an animalistic life. Those who are on a platform of gross materialism, then by the social order of the Vedas, they are known as Shudras. This most very realistic and a very, very straightforward verse in the scriptures. Ahar nidra bhai maithunam chad etad naranam pashubi samana dharmena adhika visesho dharma vihina pashubi samana. Ahar nidra bhai maithun, eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. Ahar nidra bhai maithunam cha. Ahar nidra bhai maithunam etad naranam pashubi samanam. These four faculties or functions are present in human beings as well as animals. What's the difference between us and animals? Unless and until we cultivate a fifth function out of these four. A fifth function is dharmena adhika visesho. We have this extra capability when we have got this human form of life to cultivate spirituality. Athato brahma jigyasa. To inquire, because I've got this human form of life, to inquire about the higher subject matters of spirituality. Where do I come from? I am a spirit soul. What is my relationship between the super soul? What should be my activities? What are the different activities that I should perform that will help me gain higher consciousness, higher realization about the self, not all about the gross body. Athato brahma jigyasa. Dharmena adhika visesha. We have got this extra faculty as human beings. Dharma vihina pashubi samana. And if we do not exercise the fifth faculty, or we do not attempt to, or if we do not desire, then we are as good as animals. As good as animals. So externally speaking, the Vedas have many, many subject matters, including the injunctions. Until and unless we reach the highest platform of realization, which is beyond the bodily concept, we have to follow rules and regulations. And one of the rules of some of the rules and regulations in the Vedas is that we should associate with persons who are in the mode of goodness, which will eventually help us to go beyond the mode of goodness into the transcendental mode. But if we associate with persons who are in the mode of ignorance and in the mode of passion, then we will certainly live our lives like animals, although we may have obtained a human body. We will be so much grossly attached to material things just because of our association. And that's what we normally see when we look out into the world. That's the kind of people. We go to the office, we go to school, we go to college, we are at the bus stop, we are at the train station. What kind of conversations? We go to a party, whether it is a wedding or a birthday, or we go to a funeral. Every minute, every occasion, it's nothing but discussions on how to eat better, sleep better, mate better, etc. How to become gross materialists. Even within the temple domain, we find that the half an hour of the artik or the kirtan, and perhaps another 45 minutes of the sermon, once that is done, and then open our ears. What are the most of the conversations revolving around? How's the stock market doing? Or what's happening between Ukraine and Russia? Or this is what's happening. I heard this on CNN. And then we talk about COVID. We talk about everything else except Krishna. Even the 2 hours that we plan on spending at the temple, this is the unfortunate situation that we are in. So the Vedic injunctions are that we should try to associate with the, at least with the mode of goodness, whether it is clothing, or whether it is foodstuffs, or whether it is persons. So the Vedic injunctions say that one should not associate with persons who are in gross ignorance. And Rayaramananda considered himself out of pure humility, and because he was born to Shudra parents, by birth he was a Shudra. Therefore, the Vedic injunctions should be followed, and Mahaprabhu should not associate with him. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Srila Prabhupada mentions in this purport, 9th chapter, that Mami Bharta Vyapa Ashritya Yehi Api Syu Papa Yoneha Striya Vaishyas Tatha Shudraste Api Yanti Param Gatin. O son of Pratha, O Arjun, those who take shelter of me, those who are surrendered to me, though may be of a lower birth, including Shudras, they can attain the supreme destination. So Prabhupada mentions the word Papa Yonaya means born in a lower class. See, due to our karma, we take birth. Even if we get a human form of birth, it is not necessary that we can get a birth that is which is of a topmost human nature. There's a nice verse in the Bhagavatam, if I can remember it correctly, it is in the conversation between Mother Devuti and her son Kapil Dev, the incarnation of God, who instructs his own mother. His mother asks him, because of his elevated position, that I am a woman and I am of lower intelligence. Please instruct me. So there in that chapter, Kapil Dev says, Karmana Daiva Netrena Dehu Jantu Upapate. Karmana, according to the karma of the soul of that person or that entity, Karmana Daiva Netrena, under the supervision of the Supreme Lord, Daiva Netrena, of the Supreme Lord, Dehu Jantu Upapate, one obtains a befitting body. So somebody gets a cat's body, dog's body, hog's body, human body. And even in the human body, one may get a lower class, born to lower class, meaning very grossly materialistic parents. Either they could be uh, considered as lower status in the social order, or by their activities performing so much labor that they don't have time for self-realization, go to church or to the temple. They work so hard then just to get rid of the bodily pain. A lot of these Shudras or the labor class, they are addicted to drinking, drugs, etc., that even further lowers their consciousness. And when children are born in such families, this is what happens. They see their parents. Very rarely it happens that they come out of this vicious cycle where they live in a certain neighborhood which is full of crime predominantly, where there is so much drinking and drugs and other bad habits, not finishing school, etc. And then just simply because they have to work as they grow, they need a place to stay, they have to work, then they get the low class minimum wage jobs, etc. And they have to work hard just to make ends meet. Just to make ends meet, sometimes 2 jobs, sleep deprivation. Then how can we expect those people to really, when we invite them to the church or the temple, to come? 7 days a week they work hard, simply labor. So it is their misfortune based on their past karma, although they got the human body. But somehow or the other, by the mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, even such low class people were transported or transformed into the highest class simply by chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Srila Prabhupada mentions high and low positions in society are calculated by considering a person's Krishna consciousness. So if somebody is Krishna conscious, then he is a very high class person, although he may be by social order a low class person. Te api yanti param gatim. One who surrenders to Sri Krishna will obtain the highest destination. So externally, Rayaramananda is respecting the instructions of the Vedas, because most people are encouraged to do so. As an example, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when his father passed on, when he left his body, Sri Jagannath Mishra, who is none other than Nanda Maharaj from Golok Vrindavan, but although just to keep the social norms and to respect the Vedic injunctions, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself went and completed all the rites and rituals just like a ordinary son, so that he set an example in the society. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu does not have to offer oblations to his forefathers, including his father who had just passed on, because he's an eternal associate. He's his eternal father in the spiritual kingdom. So whether or not Vedic rites and rituals are performed, it doesn't matter. But in spite of that, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did that. So one should not think that one should neglect the Vedic injunctions. Unless and until we are on a platform where we are beyond the 3 modes of material nature, then the Vedic injunctions of the Tamogun, Rajagun, and Satogun, the mode of ignorance, the mode of passion, and the mode of goodness, then we become Nistray Guna. We go beyond the three modes. And in that state is known as Shuddha Sattvam. Then whatever that person does, whatever activities, whatever he speaks, itself becomes Vedavakya. That itself becomes the scripture. Until then, we must keep those norms and perform whatever is necessary. Further, Rayaramanada says, Tomara kripay toma karaya nidya karama sakshat ishwara tumi jekane tomar marma. Tomar kripaya tomay karaya nidya karma sakshat ishwar tumi ke jane tomar marma. Tomar kripa tomay karya. Only by your mercy one can know. Otherwise, how is it possible? Nidya karma, the forbidden actions. You are Sakshat Ishwar. You are the supreme personality of Godhead. Tumi ke jane tomar marma. Only you know what your purpose is. So somehow or the other you have come here and you met a fallen soul like me. So only you must be knowing why you did that. See, this is humility. Not that I'm great, I'm the governor of this province, and that is why you, a sadhu, has come to see me. Perhaps you need something from me. A lot of the people think like that. Because nowadays the sadhus or the renounced order personalities are of that nature also. They're always looking for rich people to meet them. And the rich people of this very mithya ahankar, the false ego, oh, I'm going to give this, he has come to my door, this priest or this saintly person, I'm going to give him a big donation. I'm going to give him X amount of dollars or X amount of rupees to build a temple. And my name will be there on a plaque. So nowadays, this is what is going on. The cheaters and the cheated. Those sadhus who simply go to the doors of the very rich people for the purpose of their own sense gratification, then they are not really sadhus. They are not really saintly persons. Very clearly, in the second canto, it has been described. The one who is in the renounced order is only going to stop by at a householder's house as much time it takes to simply milk a cow for 1 cup of milk. How long does that take? In the ancient days, the sadhus used to go, the saintly persons, because they were in the renounced order, they used to go with a begging bowl so that somebody would give them fruits and vegetables and some grains and rice and maybe a cup of milk in their begging pot. And that is the duty of the householders, to take care of the brahmacharis and the sannyasis, those who are in the renounced order. But to take care means from their heart, not for a hidden agenda that I am donating. We have seen that with our own, and we mention these things, some of these negative things, so that we can take warning from it. Sometimes we've seen that some people who get the higher administrative posts in temples and mosques and churches, etc., they've got such a puffed up ego. They go to the extent of saying that, oh, if I'm not there, this temple will be shut down. It is because of me. This temple or the mosque or this place of, or this religious institution is running. Lest they forget that the Supreme Lord is in control. The sannyasis or the saintly persons who simply stop by, not to actually from the higher purpose to make their ends meet, so that if they're hungry, they will beg for grains and fruits and milk. That automatically Krishna will provide if they have the full faith. But it is simply for a very deeper reason, is to give blessings to those householders by simply showing up at their door because of their purity. When a Vaishnava or a sadhu or a saintly person shows up at our door and who is pure in nature, if we think we are giving them something, we are fool number ones. It is them who have done us a great favor by simply bestowing their mercy, by stopping there for a few minutes, either chanting the holy names, or sometimes they come into our house and they give a sermon or Hari Katha. It is for our benefit. And as a token of gratitude, we try to give them something that they can use. We give them because it is as a token of gratitude, not as something that will puff up our ego. So it is by your mercy, oh dear Lord, you have come here on a fallen soul, Rayaramananda says, and I'm sure only you know your purpose. So, although Rayaramananda is fully capable, because he is none other than Vishakha Sakhi, fully empowered, none other than we can say, because he is one of the internal potencies of Krishna. But even then, he says that only you know what your purpose is. Srila Prabhupada has mentioned in the purport, a sannyasi is strictly forbidden to see Vishayis. A sannyasi is strictly forbidden to see persons who are grossly attached to material things. But Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, out of his boundless and causeless mercy, could show favor to anyone, regardless of their birth and position. And that's exactly what Mahaprabhu's devotees have, the same mood. Sri Chaitanya Mano Abhishtam Sthapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadadikam. Understanding what's in the core, the desire in the core of the heart of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Rupa Goswami acted accordingly. When will that Rupa Goswami give me shelter at his lotus feet? So we are all Rupanugas. Our acharyas are perfect Rupanugas. Srila Prabhupada is a perfect follower of Rupa Goswami, one of the principal students of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Rupa Goswami. Gauravani Pracharine. Understanding the pure mood of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Srila Prabhupada left Vrindavan. He came to the West, not considering the position of the persons who are in the West who are grossly materialist, involved in eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. That's all they know. And that's what today is the culture even in India. That Vedic culture is becoming so dilute and it is diminished, simply imitating the West of how to become gross materialists. That's what we are being taught right from the time we open our eyes. From the time we go to school, sense gratification. From the time we have a crush, the boys and girls in the high school, how to impress the girls, sense gratification. On the prom night, most of the boys and girls, they lose their virginity, sense gratification. And as they get their job and make some money, by Friday, their paycheck is blown into bars and pubs, sense gratification. And for those who manage to save some money, it's for a better home, better car, better this, better that, better watch, Rolex watch, etc. Sense gratification till they die. A nice boat, a nice vacation home. And then what happens? Death just comes one day without any kind of realization that I am not this body, I am a spirit soul, and I have a pure connection with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna. Hari Hari Vifale Janama Gainu, Manusha Janama Paiya, Radha Krishna Nabhajiya, Janiya Shuniya Bishakhainu. Narottam Das Thakur says in one of his poems, Hari Hari, oh my dear Lord, oh my dear Lord, Janama Gainu, I've wasted my life. Manusha janama paiya, I have obtained this human form of life. Radha Krishna Nabhaji, I have not worshipped their supreme lordships, Radha and Krishna. Janiya Shuniya Bishakhainu. Purposely, I have consumed poison. Golokera prema dhana harinama sankirtana ratina janmele kenotai. This Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. It's not ordinary. Prabhupada has mentioned that many times. It is not from an ordinary material strata. It comes from the highest plane. Golok Vrindavan, Golokera Prema Dhana. It comes from the spiritual kingdom and the highest planet in the spiritual kingdom of God, known as Golok Vrindavan. And it is Prema Dhana. It is a treasure of love that came from that highest strata. Harinam Sankirtana. The holy names, the Samyak Kirtan, the Samkirtan, glorifying Radha and Krishna and their associates. That is Sankirtan. But what? Ratina Janmilo Kenatai. It is my misfortune that I never got attached to chanting these holy names. Rajendra Nandan Shachi Shuddha Hoilo Shai Balram Hoilo Nitai. The son of Nanda Maharaj, Krishna, and Lord Balram, his brother, they both descended from the spiritual world. And Krishna became Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Sachi Shuta, the son of Sachi Mata, Mother Sachi. Balram Hoilo Nitai. And Lord Balram, he appeared as Lord Nityananda to bestow this mercy. Dinaina Jata Chilo Hariname Uddharido Tara Shakshi Jagai Madhai. And they came and simply what they did, following in the footsteps of Lord Nityananda and Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, that's what Srila Prabhupada did. Dinaina Jata Chilo Hariname Uddharilo. Simply giving them, my dear boy, my dear son, please chant this Hare Krishna Maha Mantra and be happy. Prabhupada went to the West. He went all over the world simply pleading in the mood of Lord Nityananda, please chant the holy names and you will certainly be eternally happy. Dinahina Jatachilo, Hariname Uddharilo. He simply Nirvisesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. He purified, he uplifted all those persons in the mode of ignorance and in the mode of passion and even in the mode of goodness in the Western culture, the Mayavadis, the Brahmavadis, the Buddhists, etc. Tarine, he delivered them. Dinaina Jatachilo, Hariname Uddharilo, Tara Sakshi Jagai Madai. And Narottam Das Thakur says that the witness of such persons that you delivered, the most fallen, the scoundrels, the criminals, like Jagai and Madai. We all know that story. Jagai and Madai were robbers, rapists. They did all kinds of antisocial things, drunkards, liars. When Lord Nityananda Prabhu went door to door knocking, please take the holy name once. Please take the holy name once. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had sent Lord Nityananda, his other counterpart, most merciful. Nadiya Godru mein Nityananda Mahajana Pathiyache Naam Hat Jivera Karane Shraddhavan Jana hai Shraddhavan Jana hai Laho Krishna Kaho Krishna Laho Krishna Naam Re. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu instructed Nityanand Prabhu and Haridas Thakur, go to every house, knock on the door and please plead to them to take the holy names. When they went to the doors of Jagai and Madai, they were drunk. Lord Nityananda fell at their feet. Please take the holy name once. I beg you. Hey, you get out. They were drunk. They kicked Lord Nityananda, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the cause of all the causes, the cause of all the spiritual creations, the cause of the material worlds, the first expansions, the simultaneous expansion along with Radharani, as the Sandhini Shakti himself got kicked just because he pleaded and followed the instructions of his brother. Go beg, ask everyone to take the holy name. Nityanand Prabhu said, please take the holy name once, although he was kicked again and again. And then they took a liquor pot and hit it on Nityanand Prabhu's head. Blood oozed. There was a gut, a gash. The Supreme Lord took that. That is what Srila Prabhupada did in the same mood. When he came to the 22nd Avenue in New York, the hippie district, Srila Prabhupada had to deal with all kinds. There were people, there were hippies. He shared a room with a hippie, I forget his name, who was high on LSD at that time. Srila Prabhupada would request him, please, don't leave the soap on the bathtub. I'm an old man. I will slip and fall. He would never listen because he's always high. Srila Prabhupada had no place to go at that time. But he was the mood of Lord Nityananda. He wanted to preach. He wanted to give the holy names to all. Because it was the desire of Mahaprabhu, Sri Chaitanya Manobhishtam. As a true Rupanuga, in every town and village, my name will be spread. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had predicted that about 500 years ago. One night, in the middle of the night, he went on a very heavy drug trip and he started freaking out. And Srila Prabhupada had to call another acquaintance, please take me here from here now. This man has gone crazy. Srila Prabhupada used to live in those buildings where he had to cross over drunkards lying in the stairway simply to climb about 1 fleet of stairs. That is causeless mercy. So when Mahaprabhu sends his true emissaries like Srila Prabhupada, that is his causeless mercy, which we have to recognize and appreciate. Further, Rayaramananda says, Amanistarite tomar ihan agamano parama dayalu tumi patita pavana. Amar nistarite tume ihan agamano parama dayalu tumi patita pavan. Ama nistarite, in order to deliver me, tomar, you, ihan agamana, that is why you have come here. Parama dayalu, you are very, very merciful. Parama dayalu to me. Patita pavana. Patit pavan. Patit means fallen, and pavan means one who purifies even the fallen or the most impure. Srila Prabhupada quotes again another wonderful teachings of Narottam Das Thakur, Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Daya Karo More, in his song from Prarthana, Toma bina ke dayalu jagata samsare patita pavana hetu tavay avatar mo shama patita Prabhu na paibe aar. O Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, please have mercy on me. Toma bina ke dayalu, there's nobody as merciful as you in this world, jagata samsare. Patita pavana hetu tava avatar. The reason why you appeared as a munificent avatar, incarnation, is to uplift, to purify the fallen souls. Mo sama patita Prabhu na paibe aar. There's nobody as fallen as me. So I deserve your mercy, oh Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Sri Prabhupada quotes a wonderful, another verse. Veda nishta madhyardheka Veda mukhe mano mane Veda nishiddha papa kare dharma nahi gane. Here Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is saying that Veda Nishta Madhya Ardheka Veda Mukhe Mane. So-called followers of the Vedic injunctions principles simply accept the Vedas formally. Normally we see that most of the scriptures, whether it's the Bible or the Quran or the Vedic scriptures, they're taken as a formality. And especially in the symptomatic age of Kali, people claim to follow a certain type of religion, saying formally that I'm a Hindu, I'm a Muslim, I'm a Christian, I'm this, I'm that. But actually, no one follows the principles enunciated in the religious scriptures. This is the disease of this age. Therefore, the merciful Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has simply advised us to chant Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Further, Rayaraman says, Mahanta Shabhavai ei tarite pamoro nijo koryo nahi tabu jantar ghoro. Mahanta Shabhavai tarite pamor nijo karyo nahi tabu yan tar ghoro. Mahanta Shabha, it is the nature of saintly person. Mahanta means a very, very saintly person. Ei tarite, what is their nature? Is to uplift the fallen souls, is to purify the fallen persons. Nija Korea nahi tabu yan tar ghora. Therefore, they go to the houses of people just to uplift them, not to simply make disciples and collect money or to become famous. Mahaprabhu has rejected that. In which verse of the Chaitanya Sistastakam? 4th verse. Na dhanam, na janam, na sundarim, kavitava, jagadisha kamaye, mama janmani janmani, bhaktir ahituki tvai, mama janmani janmani. Birth after birth, I only desire one thing, is pure devotion, without any material motivation. And I do not desire any wealth, na dhanam, janam, followers, sundarim, the association of opposite sex, and na dhanam, na janam, na sundarim, kavitava, or the adoration of people, the eulogies or the aggrandizement. I do not desire all those things. The only thing I desire is Mama Janmani Janmani Ishware Bhavatat Bhaktir Ahituki Tvai. Only pure devotion unto you, O Lord. That is my only desire. So again, Srila Prabhupada mentions the duty of a sannyasi. A sannyasi is supposed to beg from door to door. And that is why, if you notice, difference between a brahmachari and a sannyasi is both are dressed in saffron. But a brahmachari has got a dhoti. He's got a certain section that is wrapped around from the front to the back and it's tucked. And it is about a good 9 yards, a lot of cloth. And they wear a kurta, saffron robe. But a sannyasi, he even doesn't wear a kurta. He's not supposed to. Unless, of course, they come here to preach and, weather is warm, then obviously, the weather is cold. But otherwise, they only have an upper cloth, upper garment. Why? That upper garment is used for begging. So what they do is they make it like a hollow piece of cloth. So when they go from door to door, they're supposed to beg that upavastra. And they have a very small, short piece of cloth that they just simply wrap around, perhaps about 1.5 meters, just to cover their lower portion of their body. That is a sannyasi, renounced. So not much cloth is used. As a matter of fact, in the Bhagavatam, it is said, what are those pieces of cloth not available in the crematorium that have been rejected? That's what the sannyasi should pick up That is what the standard is. That's what Gaurkishodas Babaji Maharaj used to do. What are the rivers that have they stopped giving waters? Have the trees stopped giving fruits? Have the trees stopped giving shelter? So this is the sannyas dharma. So even if they go house to house, Prabhupada mentioned it is simply to beg from door to door. He does not beg simply, he does not beg simply because he is hungry. I just mentioned that previously. His real purpose is to enlighten the occupant of every house by preaching Krishna consciousness. A sannyasi does not abandon his superior position and become a beggar just for the sake of begging. Similarly, a person in householder life may be very important, but he may also voluntarily take to the mendicant way of life, like Rup Goswami and Sanatan Goswami were ministers. What is that verse that in the Shada Goswami Astakam? Takta Sudustam, no. Kopina Kantashrita. Although they were great ministers, Rup Sanatan Goswami, they took the loincloth, not even a cloth that they will wrap around themselves like a sannyasi, just enough to cover their genitals. They were so renounced. So Sri Prabhupada says, similarly, a person in householder life may be very important, but he may also voluntarily take to the mendicant way of life, like Rup Goswami and Sanatan Goswami. They were ministers, but they voluntarily accepted the mendicant's life in order to humbly preach Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's message. It is said about them, Tvakta Turnam Asesham Mandala Patim Shrenim Sada Tuchavat Bhutva Dina Ganeshakau Karunaya Kopina Kantasrita. Yes, this is the complete one of the complete verses in the Shada Goswami Astakam. Although the 6 Goswamis were very aristocratic, on the order of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, they became mendicants just to deliver the fallen souls. One should also consider that those who engage in the missionary activities of Krishna conscious movement are under the guidance of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. They are not actually beggars. Their real businesses, their real business is to deliver the fallen souls. Therefore, they may go from door to door just to introduce a book about Krishna consciousness so that people can become enlightened by reading. So introducing a book and forcing a book, there's a big difference. This book distribution business has now become a business to collect money. No. It should be given freely if somebody cannot afford a donation. It is for you. It is for your benefit. That is the bhav of preaching. Formerly, brahmacharis and sannyasis used to beg from door to door. At the present moment, especially in the Western countries, a person may be handed over to the police if he begs from door to door, or there is panhandling, as we say. In Western countries, begging is considered a criminal activity. But members of the Krishna conscious movement have no business begging. Instead, they work very hard to introduce some literatures about Krishna consciousness so that people can read them and can be benefited. A lot of the devotees who are actually presenting Srila Prabhupada's books, that's very nice. But they should know what is inside those books, at least the fundamentals. Otherwise, it just becomes like a corporate salesman selling some soap or some vacuum cleaners. Of course, it's slightly better than that. But if the motive is only to make their superiors happy, to make their guru happy so that they can collect more money and they can fly in first class, air cabins and buy the latest version of the iPad and the laptop, and simply the guru is enjoying at the cost of the labor of the sishya or the disciple, then that's not what Srila Prabhupada is saying here. It's very clear. It is for the benefit of the public at large. But if anyone gives some contribution to a Krishna conscious man, he never refuses it. So here Prabhupada has very clearly said, the Krishna conscious man. So one has to be very careful before accepting any kind of money from someone, that are we Krishna conscious that we are accepting? And if somebody forces it, then it is our duty to give it to Srila Prabhupada. It is our duty to give it to Vaishnavas and for the cause of that. Uh, Personally, I do not wish to mention this, but since this topic is here, sometimes when I do kirtan or katha, and many times I've gone to people's houses, and out of a lot of great uh, pursuance, they want to give me something. Then my wife and I, what we do is we take it respectfully. We refuse quite a bit, but if they do insist, then we have a box that we keep at home, and we put that money in that box. And whenever we go to Vrindavan or any other needy person, or to propagate Krishna consciousness, the proper person, because dan or charity, if it's done in the mode of ignorance or in the mode of passion, then it will not have the desired effect. Krishna has mentioned that in the 18th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. So one has to be very careful, accepting donations and making donations. It should be done in the proper mood. So, to date, one thing that I've received this blessing, I never charge not a single penny for any kind of katha or kirtan. And I always seek the blessings of all the Vaishnavas, Srila Prabhupada, our acharyas, that never will that day come. Even if I have to die of hunger, I will never do that. Because this is what I have taken home, the pure message. Because if I'm reading Srila Prabhupada's books, I must try to follow to the best of my ability. If not all 100%, a majority of it. And I try to, and I beg that I can follow all 100%, if possibly in this life, or perhaps, if I have to continue my journey in the next lives, I will. But purity is the force. That's the important point that Srila Prabhupada drives home, and where he is specifically mentioning the injunctions of a sannyasi based on the Vedic injunctions. So then further, it is mentioned here in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Mahadavichalanam Nrunam Grihanam Dina Chestasam Nihashrayasya Bhagwan Nana Yatha Kalpate Kwachit. So Mahata Vichalanam Nrunam Grihinam Dina Chestam Nihashreya Asaya Bhagwan Na Anyatha Kalpate. Meaning, my dear Lord, great saintly personalities go to homes of householders, although these householders are generally low-minded, or they are of a lower consciousness. When a saintly person visits their homes, one can understand that it is for no other purpose than to benefit the householders. So this verse is from the 10th canto, chapter number 8, that Srila Prabhupada is in particularly quoted, that the purpose of why the saintly personalities visit the householders, although the householders can be of a lower consciousness. Rayaramananda continues, Amar Shange Brahmanadi, Amar Shange Brahmanayadi Sahasreka Jana Tomara Darshane Shabat Dravibhuta Mana. Amar Shange Brahman Adi Sahasreka Jana Tomar Darshane Shabar Dravibhuta Mana. Amar Shange Brahman Adi. Along with me, all these Brahmins and my other associates are Sahasrika, more than 1,000 of them have followed me to the banks of the Godavari. Tomar Darshane, just by your audition or just by seeing you, Sabar, all of them, Dravibhuta, they have simply melted. Mona, Dravibhuta Mona, their hearts have melted simply by seeing you. All these 1,000-odd persons who have followed me from the palace to the banks of this holy river Godavari. Krishna Krishna Nama Shuni Shabara Bodone Shabaranga Pulakita Ashru Noyone. Krishna Krishna Nama Shuni Shabara Bodone Shabaranga Pulakita Ashru Noyone. hearing the holy names, Krishna, Krishna. I hear everyone just by seeing you. And because you were chanting Krishna, Krishna, everybody has started chanting the holy names, Krishna, Krishna. Everyone's body is thrilled with ecstasy. Nama Shuni Shabara Badane Shabara Anga Pulakita. Pulakita means they have gone into ecstasy, Ashrunayane, and they are simply crying. Just by mere presence, by your presence, and when you are chanting. So, this is the effect when a pure devotee or the Lord Himself, who has come as a pure devotee, chants the holy name, it has a profound effect. Purity is the force. When Srila Prabhupada stood under in the Tompkins Square Park in New York in 1965, and he just simply stood under a tree and he simply chanted Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Simply by his purity, the holy names that permeated the entire park. Some hippies were smoking their hashish or ganja, or they were on LSD, and some were drinking, and some were just visiting the park with their children, families. All of them gathered around. They were attracted to the holy name because that holy name emanated from a pure devotee's lotus lips. And they all started chanting and dancing in ecstasy. And that's how the Hare Krishna explosion started, with the holy name. So that is the profound effect. These Brahmanas were Brahmavadis. They were not pure devotees. They could never understand. But the effect of that, of chanting of the holy names, was profound, and it permeated. Akrute prakrite tomar Ishvara lakshana jivena sambhave ei aprakruta guna. Akrutya prakrutya tomar Ishvara lakshana jivena sambhave ei aprakruta guna. So here, very clearly, Rayaramananda is saying, Akrutya, seeing your bodily features, the physiognomy, prakriti, and your behavior, and the way you are acting, tomar ishware lakshana, I can see that you are the Supreme Personality of Godhead. I can feel that lakshana. Obviously, Vishaka Saki has to, because Krishna is her lover as well. So how can she not see her own lover and the lover of her best friend Pran Sakhi Radharani, that you are Nanda and the Supreme Personality of Godhead? Jive na sambhave. This is not possible for any ordinary person to exhibit such physiognomy and to exhibit such qualities. Aprakrita. This is transcendental. It is not prakriti. Prakriti means material, and aprakrita means transcendental, beyond this material world. Guna, these qualities. So Mahaprabhu's bodily features were very uncommon. Ajanu lambita bhujo kanakaya udhato. His hands extended all the way. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Nityanand Prabhu, Vrindavan Das Thakur mentions in the Mangalacharan of Chaitanya Bhagavat that both of these great personalities, their hands, their physiognomy extended to beyond their knees. We find that even Srila Prabhupada's hands extended beyond his knees. So we can see if we are standing erect and if our hands extend beyond our knees, then that's a very good sign of a devotee. These are all the different symptoms. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's bodily features were very uncommon. His body was extraordinary in measurements. He was very tall. His chest was very broad. His forearms were the same. And this is called Nyagarodha Parimandala. Prabhupada mentions these words. As far as his nature is concerned, he was very kind to everyone. He was so kind that even when he went to the forest of the Jarikhand, he was chanting the holy names, and even the tigers and the beasts and the elephants and the deers and the rabbits and all the different herbivorous and the carnivorous animals in unison started dancing, because he's so kind. just not to humans, but to all the jivas, to all the souls. So that is his guna. And as stated in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is a kind father of everyone. Uh, I am the seed giving father, he says in the Bhagavad Gita. And in every species, he is Sarva Yonishu. I am in every species of life, I am the original father, a Bija Pradapita. I am the seed giving father. That, and also in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says that in that verse, Bhuktaram Sarva Yajna Tapasyam. He says that Surat Sarva Bhutanam. I am indeed the well-wisher of all the living entities. So he is the original father, the seed giver. How then can he be unkind to all the living entities? One may be a man or an animal or even a tree, Prabhupada mentions, but the Lord is kind to everyone. This is the qualification of God. So he says also in the Bhagavad Gita that Samoham Sarva Bhuteshu, I am equally kind to everyone. So like this is the quality. Surdas says in one of his pads or in one of his kirtans, Prabhu mere avaguna chitta nadharo समादर्शी है नाम तिहारो चाहे तो पार करो प्रभु मेरे अवगुण चित्त ना धरो. So he's saying that you are Samadarshi hai Nama Tiharo. You are known as Samadarshi. You look upon everybody equally. Samoham Sarva Bhuteshu. You say that in the Bhagavad Gita. So if you so desire, please deliver me. Surdas says, Ek loha puja mein rakhat, ek एक लोहा पूजा में राखत, एक बधिक घर परो, पारस पारस भेद ना करत, कंचन करत खरो. Further he says in this pad, in this song, that there is one piece of metal or a steel or an iron metal that is used in puja, in worshipping the Lord, and one piece of iron in the form of perhaps a chopper or a knife is used by the butcher. A badika ghar dharo. But parasa, the touchstone, does not distinguish. Once it touches the plate that is made of metal or iron metal that is used in the worship, if it touches it, it becomes gold. And even if that paras or that touchstone touches the butcher's knife, even that will make it gold. It doesn't distinguish. So similarly, my dear Lord, Samoham Sarva Bhuteshu, Krishna says that I am equal to all. He advises that that one should take to and surrender unto Sarva Dharma and Parityajya Mam Ekam Sharanam Braja, giving up all varieties of different kinds of concepts of dharma or religiosity or duties. One should surrender unto him. And this instruction is not only meant for Arjun, but it is meant for all the living entities. Srila Prabhupada mentions, whoever takes advantage of this offer, Prabhupada says, it is an offer by Krishna. It is immediately, one becomes immediately immune to all sinful activity and returns home back to Godhead. While present on this planet, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu made this same offer. As a matter of fact, he made a better offer. That is, he gave Krishna prema. Further, Rayaraman says, now Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, Prabhu kahe tumi maha bhagwata uttama tomar darshane shabar drava hoile mono. Prabhu kahe, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, tumi maha bhagwata uttama. You are the best and the topmost devotee. Maha means great. And here Mahaprabhu is called Rayaramanada, two words, Maha and Uttam. Two, Maha Bhagwat. And Bhagwat means one who is actually living the life of Srimad Bhagavatam or living the life of a scripture. There is two Bhagavats, the book Bhagavat and the known as the Grantha Bhagavat, and there is the person Bhagavat. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu addresses him as Mahabhagavad and Uttam Bhagavad. Tomar darshane sabar drava hoilo mano. So he's saying, no. It is not by my darshan. It is because of your ecstasy that all these persons that are present, their hearts have melted. So this is the quality of a Vaishnava. Supposing if someone praises us for some good things that we do, then genuinely we should pray to the Lord that those qualities should manifest in our hearts, that we should see that it is the good qualities of that Vaishnava, that Vaishnava sees the good in us. It is not because of us we are great. It is we do some good things, or we are able to do some great things because of the presence of Vaishnavas. That is why we are inspired. And that's the way that we should always think, and we should feel like that. Unless one is a first class devotee, Prabhupada mentions he cannot be a preacher. A preacher is generally a topmost devotee, but in order to meet the general populace, he has to come to distinguish between devotees and non-devotees. So a pure devotee is known as Uttam Adhikari or Uttam Bhagavad, but then he has to come down, Prabhupada is saying, to the Madhyam Adhikari platform. Because the difference between, there are three kinds of Vaishnavas: Uttam Vaishnava, Madhyam Vaishnava, and Kanishta Vaishnava. Uttam Vaishnava is that who is on a transcendental platform, who actually sees himself. The description is given by Kaviraj Goswami in Chaitanya Charitamrita, and also in Srimad Bhagavatam. The general symptoms are that they generally do not preach the Uttam Adhikari because they feel that everybody else is better than them. So how can I preach? They take such a humble stance. They feel that they are the worst in the world. Like before compiling, in the beginning of Chaitanya Charitamrita, Krishna Kaviraj Goswami says, I am like a stool in a worm. But somehow the other, it is Madan Mohanji, my Guru Maharaj, Raghunath Das Goswami, they are the ones who are, making me an instrument to compose Chaitanya Charitamrita. Otherwise, I am so fallen, I'm worse than a lagista. Like lagista means stool. I am a worm in a stool. That is my position. So this is a very difficult thing. We can say, oh Prabhu, oh Mata, I'm so fallen, but internally we don't feel like that. But when Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami says, then he feels like that. When Bhaktivinoda Thakur says that Amito Adham, then he feels like that I am very fallen. Narottam Das Thakur also, when he says that, Mo sama patita Prabhu na paibe yaar, there's nobody as fallen as me, then he feels like that genuinely. So that humility, so then they cannot generally preach. But when Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Narottam Das Thakur, and all the Vaishnava Acharyas, even Srila Prabhupada, when they preach, then generally when they are preaching in the Tattva, at that time they take the Madhyam Adhikari platform. And when they are in Bhajan Lalsa, when they are in Bhajan, then they're doing their own Bhajan. So when they write all these songs in their Bhajan, at that mode, there is no preaching to anybody. It is what they have written while they're in seclusion, or amongst a few very, very intimate associates. They compose some things. Like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu composed the Chaitanya Sistastakam with his two most intimate associates. One of them is Rayaramananda, who is Visakha Sakhi, and the other one is Sarup Damodar, who is Lalita Sakhi in the Gambhira, in Jagannath Puri. But then it became manifest. It is by the mercy of Sarup Damodar Goswami and Rai Ramanan that these came, the interactions between Mahaprabhu and them, even the rasa came to light. So similarly, in order to bring the philosophy and the rasa to light, somebody has to preach. So this Mahabhagavats, they come to a Madhyam Adhikari platform. And one of the qualities of a Madhyam Adhikari is they distinguish between non-devotees and devotees. That is one of the qualities. They are favorable to the devotees and they kind of stay aloof from the non-devotees. Now this is a Madhyam Kanishta. Then even Madhyam, there is Madhyam, and there is Madhyam Uttam. But a Madhyam Uttam will preach to everyone because they are so strong that they will not be affected by even persons like the scoundrels like Jagai and Madai. Otherwise, if we think that we can go to the bars and we can go to the prostitutes and try to preach, then we will succumb to Maya, and then we will certainly be trapped. But if a pure devotee on a Madhyam or a Madhyam Uttam platform preaches, then they can even convert the prostitute or the drunkard into a devotee. So these are some of the distinctions that we should understand. And the Kanishta Vaishnava thinks that he is the only devotee and the rest of them are lower than him. He has faith in the Supreme Lord, no doubt about that. But the other distinction is that he thinks he's the best devotee and the rest of them are lower than him. Madhyam also has faith in the Lord, but he is a preacher, and he has got a he is very uh, uh, what is the word? He is very uh, uh, conducive, or he is very close to the devotees, and he tries to keep away from non-devotees, especially for us who are in the sadhana stage. Even if we are preaching, then we have to try to abstain from the association of non-devotees. Some people who have tried that, they fail, and then they succumb. They go and try to preach to the non-devotees, and then they say, uh, Prabhuji, have this, and then they force them, and then there's some other ingredients in the food that are not conducive to Vaishnavas. They start eating that, and it only takes one step to do that. I remember one in our childhood, black and white movie in Marathi in Bombay. It used to be telecast on Doordarshan. Ekats Pyala. The meaning in Marathi, it means only one glass. Pyala means one glass. That was the name of the movie. So there was this one very wonderful person who was a teacher, very sattvic in nature, very truthful in all respects, very, very nice, like sattvic person. Uh, and he used to teach the kids in school, very good teacher, all the great qualities. He was poor, not attracted to money, none of that stuff. So one day he got into the association of a bad person, and that person takes him to a drama. And in that drama, there were some ladies dancing, that is called Lavani. And in that, he gets attracted to the dancing of the ladies. And then later on, that person introduced backstage to the chief dancing lady, who is none other than a sort of a prostitute. Let's put it that way. So then, this person who introduced and who also took him there to the drama, and it was more like gypsy dramas. They used to go from town to town, and then they used to meet the affluent people, or those people who had money to spend. After the drama was over, they would entertain them personally. So he was dragged into the quarters of this dancing girls, and there the other person started drinking, because that's what prostitutes offer, in person, like a personal dance, or etc. So then this person was simply admiring the dance, and then he gives him the glass in his hand, full of liquor. So he says, drink. So he says, no, 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 I don't want to drink. So he gets forced into, and he takes one sip, and then he takes another sip, and after one glass, ekats pyala, this one glass becomes many, many glasses, and he falls down from his position, and he becomes it's just like the story of a Jamil. He becomes a person like that, where he simply follows that prostitute wherever she went, along with her entourage, to the different towns and the villages, and started living with her, and he started associating with her. And one day, when he doesn't come, after many, many years, he comes back to his original village, and the villagers and the people in the village, thinking that something happened to their master. They used to call him Masterji, the teacher. Masterji, did not show up for me, so they thought he must have died. So they actually, in his memory, in the middle of the village, on the village square, they have a nice statue, and they worship him. They put a garland, thinking of him, what a great person he was, for guidance, for everything. And then later on, when he comes to the town, seeing himself, he's completely unkempt. He's got a beard, and nobody can recognize him. And he's sitting at his own statue, holding his head and crying, what has happened to me? Ekats pyala, this one glass. So coming to our main point, we have to be very careful. If we think that we are so great and we can preach to all, that is why one of the offenses, Namaprad number 9, is one should avoid preaching the holy names to faithless persons. Out of the 10 offenses of the holy names, number 9, especially for the sadhak. Otherwise, what will happen is either we will will be the instruments for those persons who do not have any faith of committing offenses, or we will be, because of we are not so pure, we will fall victim to Maya, and then the chances are that we will drown. We have to be a very strong swimmer to come to the level of Srila Prabhupada, and to at least to that level where there is some purity. Otherwise, Maya will just simply catch us, thinking that we are great. We know, even though we may know all the shlokas and so many things, and if we simply disregard, and if we think that we can change the world like that, then that is Maya playing on our heads. So that is why Srila Prabhupada is mentioning in this that the preacher is generally a topmost devotee, but in order to meet the general public or the populace, he has to come to distinguish between devotees and non-devotees. Otherwise, an advanced devotee makes no such distinction. Indeed, he always sees that everyone is engaged in the service of the Lord. Another point, somewhere I had read in one of the Srila Prabhupada's books somewhere, that he sees that everybody is engaged. So a pure devotee who is on a Mahabhagavat platform, who doesn't preach, then he sees that he is so fallen that even when he sees a prostitute, he sees that that prostitute is engaged in the service of Krishna. So one may ask, how is that possible? Yes, because somebody, due to their karma, deserves to be associating with a prostitute, and the prostitute is an instrument to provide that association. For example, another example, a thief. A thief is also, in one sense, from the highest angle, from a Mahabhagavat's angle, is seeing that he is also in the service of the Lord. How is in the service of the Lord, of Krishna? Because somebody deserved to be robbed because of his past karma. Maybe in the past, he had in his past life robbed people, robbed innocent people. So he needs to be robbed. So somebody has to be an instrument. So that thief has to actually has to fulfill that karma siddhanta, the principle of karma. So a pure devotee can see that. So that's why Srila Prabhupada, otherwise an advanced devotee makes no such distinction. Indeed, he always sees that everyone is engaged in the service of the Lord, but we cannot imitate them. We certainly cannot. So that is the reason we constantly need guidance. When one engages in preaching work, he must distinguish between people and understand some people are not engaged in devotional service of the Lord. The preacher then has to take compassion upon such innocent people who do not know how to worship the Lord. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, in the 11th canto, the symptoms of the topmost devotees are described as follows. Sarva bhuteshu pashyed. Bhagavata bhavan atmanaha bhutani bhagavati atmani esha bhagavata uttamaha. The advanced devotee sees that all living entities are part and parcel of the Supreme Personality of God. Mamayamsha jiva loka jiva bhuta sanatan. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita that all the jivas are my parts and parcels. So everyone is in Krishna, and Krishna is also within everyone, which is true. Krishna is present in the heart of everyone, whether it is an ant or whether it is Lord Brahma. Krishna is present in every atom, in the nucleus of every atom. Paramanu cha yandarasta govindamadi purusham tamaham bhajami. Lord Brahma mentions. So such a vision is possible only for a person who is very advanced in devotional service. So that should be our goal. That where if we can see that, then there will be no distinction at some point. But right now we must distinguish for our own sake. Otherwise, we will not be able to be advanced. Supposing if we want to jump into a very, very stormy ocean, then we have to become very strong swimmers. Or if we think that, oh, I know a little bit of swimming and I can get by in a 10 by 10 pool, and I think I can just simply jump into the Pacific Ocean and simply, swim, within 2 seconds we will drown. So that is why that distinction has to be made. Further, Mahaprabhu says, Anyaraki kathayami mayavadi shanyashi ami tomara sparshe Krishna prema bhasi. Just see the humility of Mahaprabhu. Anyara ki katha ami. Anyara, others, ki katha, what to speak. A Mayavadi sannyasi. I am a Mayavadi sannyasi. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu took sannyas in the Bharti Sampradaya. He took sannyas from Keshav Bharti. At that time when he was in Navadvip, at that young age of 24, when he came back after his father's passing away, he went to Gaya and he offered oblations at the Gaya at Vishnu Charan. And at that time, while doing that, he came across Srila Ishwar Pad. And Srila Ishwar Pad was an amazing devotee chanting the holy names. Mahaprabhu, of course, at that time manifests his internal Leela, and getting attracted to Ishwar Pad, he begs for initiation. Ishwar Pad says no, and Ishwar Pad knew who he was. He is Radha Krishna. But then Mahaprabhu, Krishna, Radharani herself came to Ishwar Pad in the heart and inspired him to give initiation. At the order, he gave initiation to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, initiated him into the holy names. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, then he started instructing Mahaprabhu that you should only chant the holy name, because he knew that Mahaprabhu was a scholar, Nimai Pandit. And when one becomes a scholar, then to set an example to the world at large, mostly scholars who are Mayavadis or Brahmavadis, who are Vedic scholars, they have got this mithya ankar. Either they will misguide the public and they will misguide themselves, and they will go to hell and they will take the others to hell. And they will go into the Sayujya Mukti. They will merge into the Brahman effulgence, and they will fall down. Aroha Kruchana Patanti Adaha. They will fall down eventually, even from the Brahma Jyoti platform. So, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu at that time, when he came back, he was simply crying. He was simply crying, faltering. The voice was faltering, choked, simply taking the Mahamantra when he was chanting the holy names after he was initiated by Ishwar Puripad. And everybody in Navadvip was looking at Nimai Pandit. What happened to him? He became crazy. He became pagal. And then even his own mother Sachimata was thinking, Amar Nimai, what happened? Ki hoilo? Srivas Acharya came to his house, and Srivas Acharya saw, Advaita Acharya saw the symptoms. And then when the innocent mother Sachimata saw how Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was behaving like a madman, just chanting and dancing and rolling on the floor with simply crying. So then Srivas Acharya says, I wish my mother, I would get this kind of madness. Because Srivas Acharya could understand, Advaita Acharya could understand the profound effect of Krishna Prema through the Mahamantra, and that he had obtained through the agency of a pure Guru, Ishwar Puripad. So then he stopped teaching in the Toll. Toll is a Gurukul where they teach the Vyakran, the grammar, and Sanskrit. So all the students in Navadvip, they started thinking that Nimai Pandit has gone mad and that respect was lost. So then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was time to now go into the next phase of his life. Although he was married, and then at that time, Vishnu Priya, his second wife, at one night he immediately, early in the morning, he left, and then he knew it was time for him to take sannyas, because his purpose was multifold. First purpose was to preach the holy names, the external. Ajanu lambita bhujo kanakaya odato sankirtanai pitaravo. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Nityananda Prabhu are the founders or the fathers of the Sankirtan movement. Kamalaya Taksho, the beautiful lotus-like eyes. Sankirtanai pitaro Kamalaya Taksho Vishwambaro Dvijavaro Yuga Dharma Palo. And they had to preach the Yuga Dharma of Kali Yuga, which was Harer Nam, Harer Nam, Harer Nam, Eva Kevalam Kalo, Na Asti, Nasti, Eva Nasti Gatiranyatha. So Mahaprabhu's purpose was that, but who would listen to him? Nobody would. When he chanted the holy names and rolled on the ground with our tears as a grihastha, as Nimai Pandit, nobody paid attention. As a matter of fact, they took him for granted and they thought he was a crazy man. So that is why he had to take sannyas, and there was no sannyasis present, no Vaishnava sannyasis present. So across the Ganga, he found this Mayavad sannyasi, Keshav Bharti. So there, next morning, early in the morning, he leaves, he swims across. Beautiful hair he had. Mahaprabhu was so beautiful, so amazingly handsome. And he, with very, very, very snigdha, soft and curled hair, long hair, amazingly beautiful. when he found a barber, and then at Katwa, when he came across the Ganga, he said, I will take sannyas. And the barber was crying, simply trying to do the mundan, shaving his head, and he took sannyas from Keshav Bharati. So this Bharati Sampradaya belongs to the Mayavadis. There are different sampradayas of sannyasis. There is all these different. So Bharati Sampradaya belongs to the Mayavad. That is why some of the, even today, the Shankaracharya followers, they consider that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is their follower, not the Vaishnava Sampradaya. There was one very nice, I would not call it really nice, but interesting, in inverted commas. One Mayavad Shankaracharya follower said that Mahaprabhu belongs to them, not to ISKCON or not to the Vaishnavas, because he took sannyas in the Mayavadi Sampradaya. So this is, we will never understand why. There's a video there floating on YouTube. Very interesting. I was amused that such a great scholar, he could not understand Mahaprabhu. Krishna can take, he can appear, janma karma chame divyam, jo vetti tatva punar janmaneti mameti swarjun. So suddenly the so-called Shankaracharya, they call themselves Shankaracharya, some of these top mahantas in the Mayavad Sampradaya, they call them the Shankaracharya. Even if we go to Jagannath Puri, the tradition is that at Rath Yatra time, whoever the present Shankaracharya is there, they will first go after Pahandi and do the Aarti of Lord Jagannath, and then the king will sweep, and then after that, after the proper rituals, Lord Rath Yatra will proceed. So even today, the whoever is the present Shankaracharya, with a lot of honor, they go, because Adi Shankaracharya did that. The Adi Shankaracharya is Lord Shiva. They have no idea that it is because Vaishnava Yatha Shambhu actually inaugurated the Rath Yatra. Because without him, Lord Jagannath will not move. So these are some of the nuances that only pure Vaishnavas, and if we hear from pure Vaishnavas, we will understand. So Krishna very clearly says, Janma karma chime divyam. My appearance, Janma, my appearance, karma, my activities are divya. So even if Mahaprabhu takes sannyas from a Mayavadi, that doesn't make him a Mayavadi. It is divyam. And if one can understand that, Tattva punar janmaneti mameti swarjan. If one can simply understand the transcendental activities 100% within their hearts, then they will never appear again in this material world. Ironclad, gold-clad guarantee by Krishna himself to Arjun. Tattva purar janmaneti mameti swarjan. Just by, without doubting that the activities, whatever activities they perform. And I have given this example many a time. A captain of, let's say, cricket team or any team. Okay, but I'll take an example of cricket team. It is not necessary, like I remember in our childhood, we used to watch these, the test matches. And at that time, I remember Sunil Gavaskar was the captain. Some of you all are of my age can remember. And his brother-in-law, Vishwanath, was the vice captain. And then later on, Kirmani became the vice captain, the wicket keeper. So generally, Sunil Gavaskar as a captain would use his discretion, and he would come as an opening batsman. Either he would come with his brother-in-law Vishwanath, or later on he would come with, after Vishwanath retired, with Kirmani. But sometimes it is found that as a captain, he would not open. He would sometimes even send Kapil Dev as the opening batsman. He would just simply surprise the opposite team, and he would sometimes go 3 down or 4 down as he pleased, because he's the captain. Similarly, Krishna, he appears and disappears. Like some people say that, Krishna is an avatar of Vishnu. Krishna is an avatar of Lord Rama, because Lord Rama came before Krishna. Lord Rama came in the Treta Yuga, and following Treta, in Dwapar, Krishna came. So Krishna is naturally an avatar of Lord Rama or Vishnu. Hari Hari. Hare Krishna. So we should not underestimate that he is Bhagavan. He is Swarat. In Srimad Bhagavatam, the very first verse, he is Abhigya Swarat. Om Janmadi Yasya Yatovanvayat Itaratascha Artheshva Abhigya Swarat. Vyasdeva has used these two words. Abhigya means he knows everything directly. Anvayad, Abhigya, he knows everything directly and indirectly. Sri Krishna Nandanandan. And also he is Swarat, fully independent. So he can come in Satya Yuga. If he desires to come in his original form, he came in Dwapar. It is his own sweet will. He's fully independent. He's not dependent on any avatar. He himself is the avatari. He himself is the source of all the avatars. So similarly, Mahaprabhu took sannyas because he had to take, and once he took the sannyas dress, the idea was that he will be respected. And the idea was when he would preach the Mahamantra, that preaching would have effect. And we find through our practical experience, when we go to temples and we see that there is a sadhu clad in saffron or a sannyasi, and he is speaking, it will attract more crowds. Although sometimes we find that there are better speakers we come across. They speak much more eloquently and they are well versed with the scripture. But if one is dressed in white or in a grihastha, if he's speaking on the same verse, apple to apple, oranges to oranges, comparatively, but still, because it's a sadhu speaking, because he is in that ashram, that there is a psychological impact on the audience. And that is the reason why sannyas ashram is also taken, so that they're dedicated only to preaching, and it will have the desired effect on the populace at large, and on the general population. So once he took sannyas, then he was respected. And then, of course, his preaching started going all over India, spreading the holy names and delivering so many different persons, from the Malechas, from the Muslims, the meat eaters, to many, many different persons, Brahmavadis, Mayavadis, etc. So here Mahaprabhu is saying that I am a Mayavadi Sannyasi. So he's taking a low, because naturally Mahaprabhu himself has said in Chaitanya Charitamrita, which Krishnaraj Kaviraj Goswami quotes, Mayavadi Krishna Aparadhi. A Mayavadi is an offender to Krishna, because Mayavadi kills Krishna. He thinks everything is nirgun. There is no form. And when there is no form, you're killing. You're killing the Supreme Personality. Prabhupada and our acharyas talk about saguna, saguna. And the word nirgun also, the Vaishnava acharyas have perfectly translated in its primary meaning, nirgun. They do not have material qualities. The janma karma cheme divyam. This is a very important philosophical point, that because the prasanga has come in this, I drive here, because we have to become very pakka in philosophy before we can even understand the mood of rasa. So janma karma chime divyam, it is transcendental. It is divyam. Everything about Krishna is transcendental. So therefore, Mayavadi Krishna Aparadhi, and the word nirgun, the Vaishnavas also accept it. But nirgun means no material qualities. That means transcendental qualities. The Lord has transcendental qualities. So, but here Chaitanya Mahaprabhu taking a very humble stance, I am a Mayavadi sannyasi. So that means I am an offender. I am of a very low grade. Ami tomar sparshe Krishna prema bhashi. And just by touching you, tomar sparshe, or Ramanand Rai, simply by touching you, I am inundated with the love of Krishna. Krishna bhasi, I'm floating in Krishna prem. This is the devotee and the Supreme Lord. It seems like there is a transcendental competition of humility. Simply. So amazing. It's so sweet, this conversation, and it's just so much to learn. Then further he says, Ei jani kathina mora hridaya shodhite sarvabhoma kahilena tomar milite. Ei jane kathina mor hridaya shodhite sarvabhoma kahilena tomar milite. Ei jani, thus knowing this, kathina, it is so hard, mora, for me, hridaya, for my heart, shodhite, and to rectify. Sarvavadacharya kahilena, Sarvavadacharya said, tomar milite, therefore I must meet you. So Sarvabhaumacharya knew this would happen. So here is even Chaitanya Mahaprabhu delivered Sarvabhaumacharya was a Brahmavadi. But look at how humble Mahaprabhu is, because it is the humility of Sri Radha. From a Brahmavad, Sarvabhaumacharya became a pure Vaishnava. So now even Mahaprabhu is respecting. He's not seeing him, oh, I delivered him, he was a Brahmavadi. Not that kind of an attitude. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is respecting the great Vaishnava Sarvabhaumacharya. And he's saying that Sarvabhaumacharya knew this. What did he know? And thus to rectify my heart, I am impure, Mahaprabhu says. And which is very hard. I think it is very hard to rectify my heart. Just like Lochan Das Thakur says in that bhajan, Parama Karuna Pahudui Jana Nitai Gaur Chandra. He's saying at the end, my heart is made of stone. Pashanu Vidare. It is made of stone. It is very difficult to melt my heart. Even though so many Pashupakku Jure, Pashanu Vidare, even the birds and the beasts, they have, their hearts have become softened due to the holy names. But my heart is like a stone. So here Mahaprabhu is saying that thus to rectify my heart, which he says is very hard. It is stone-hearted. He asked me to meet you. This is so amazing. It's getting sweeter and sweeter, sweeter and sweeter. So he's saying, Ei mata dune stuti kore donar gune dona donar darshane anandito mone. Ei mate dune stuti kore. Both of them, Rayaramananda and Mahaprabhu, they are eulogizing each other. Stuti kare, donare, both of them. Guna dune donare. They are singing the qualities of each other. Darshane anandito mone. And by seeing each other, they are simply in bliss. Their hearts are full of bliss. Jai ho, Mahaprabhu, Jai ho, Rayaramananda. Ena kole vaidika eka Vaishnava Brahmana Dandvata kori koila Prabhure nimantrana. So at that time, Hena Kale, at that time, Vaidika eka Vaishnava Brahman. So one Vaishnava Brahman also appears there. And a Dandavata, this Vaishnava Brahman offers his obeisances to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Flat, prostrated obeisance. A Kori Koila Prabhure Nimantrana. And at that time, he offered, he invited Chaitanya Mahaprabhu for lunch. Amazing, amazing. Nimantrana manila tanre Vaishnava janiya Ramananda kohe Prabhu Ishata hashiya. Nimantrana manila tanare. So the invitation was accepted. Manila tanare. This Brahman Vaishnava, the devotee who invited Mahaprabhu, janiya, understanding Ramananda understood that kahe Prabhura Isat hasiya. And he started smiling. So Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu accepted the invitation, knowing that Brahman to be a devotee and slightly smiling, he spoke as follows. He spoke to Rayaramananda. So one of the things is the Vaishnava etiquette. Chaye Vegadami, Chaye Doshashodi, Chaye Gunadeyo Dashe, Chaye Satsanga Dehoye Amare, Boseshi Shangera Ashe, Oi Vaishnava Thakur, Dayara Shagor, E Dashe Karuna Kori. Bhaktivinoda Thakur mentions, he's praying to the Vaishnava Acharya that please give me these wonderful transcendental qualities. Chaye Guna, the 6 transcendental qualities, Chaye Guna, Dehodashe, Chaye Satsanga. Give me the 6 qualities of the Vaishnava Sangha. So one of the qualities of the Vaishnava Sangha is when a Vaishnava invites us, we should accept their invitation. And we should invite Vaishnavas. That is one kind of association. When a Vaishnava gives us a gift, we should accept that gift. And we should give gifts to the Vaishnava. We should reveal our heart to the Vaishnavas. So like this, all these things are that we should pray to the Acharya. So please give me these 6 kinds of associations with the Vaishnava. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is accepting the invitation of this Brahman Vaishnava. Prabhupada mentions the purpose. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu accepted the Vaishnava. They accepted the invitation of the Vaishnava Brahman, even though one is a Brahman strictly following the rules and regulations of Brahminical culture, if he's not a devotee, a follower of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, one should not accept his invitation. So yeah, because those Brahmanas can be Mayavadis, they can be Brahmavadis. They may not be, they may not accept Krishna as the Ishtadev. So they may be Karmakandi Brahmins. So therefore, we must be very careful. So because here it is mentioned that Brahmana Vaishnava, the specific two words have been mentioned by Krishnaraj Kaviraj Goswami. So Prabhupada says further, at the present moment, people have become so degraded that they do not even follow the Vedic principles. Because nowadays, the so-called Brahmins, they are chewing tobacco, smoking bidis, cigarettes, and they have so many bad vices. So what to say about the Vaishnava principles of no meat eating, no gambling, no intoxication, no illicit sex? Nowadays people eat anything they like, whatever they like, and therefore the members of the Krishna consciousness movement should be very cautious about accepting invitations directly coming, the direct instructions of his divine grace. Then further he says, this will be my last verse for today. Tomar mukhe Krishna katha shunite hoy man. Mahaprabhu is telling Rayaramananda just before leaving on the invitation of the Vaishnava Brahman. Tomar mukhe Krishna katha shunite hoy man. Punarapi pai jena tomar darshana. Tomar mukhe Krishna katha shunite hoy mana. Purnar api pai jena tomara darshane. Mahaprabhu says, Tomar mukhe, O Rai Ramanand, from your mouth, Krishna katha. I would like to hear Krishna katha. Shunite hoy. I would like to hear a mana. My heart, my mind will indeed will be punarapi. Will my heart be satisfied? When will I meet you again so that I may get the advantage of hearing Krishna Katha and Tomar Darshana? When will I get your darshan? When will I see you? So this is the wonderful Mahaprabhu is requesting Rai Ramanand, when will I see you again? When will I hear Hari Katha from you? This is Radhaji, Krishna in the mood of Radha asking Rai Ramanand, when will I? So this is what it is. See, the rasa is not one way. Even Lord, the Supreme Personality of Goddess Sri Krishna, is so much attracted to rasa when he hears from his devotees. He likes to hear it again and again. Even the names that are linked to his leelas, his mukhya naam. We have mentioned that, especially I recollect when we are doing that katha of the Damodar Ashtakam during Kartik. Sanatana Goswami mentions that there is mukhya naam and gaunya naam, and here in the fourth verse, Srila Satyavrat Muni starts calling Krishna with the gaunya naam, Varam Deva and Varaishad, such names, formal names. So there is a formality, and that kind of address to Krishna or to Krishna's incarnation is in the mood of awe and reverence, in the mood of opulence, which is the mood of Vaikuntha. Varam Deva, Varaishad. But Krishna loves to hear his Mukhyanam, especially that is connected to his pastimes in Vraj. When we call him Keshav, the killer of the Keshi demon, how he protected the Vrajvasis, how he killed the Keshi demon on the banks of the Jamuna. Just the word Keshav itself indicates that pastime, which Krishna is immediately attracted. Oh, that devotee knows. He calls me Yashoda Nandan. Oh, he knows my mother's name. I am the son of Yashoda. He calls me Nanda Nandan. He calls me Radha Raman. Oh, what a sweet devotee this is. He calls me by Radha Raman. Oh, I am sporting with Radharani. This is a Rasik Vaishnava. He knows about how naughty I am, how I am sporting with Radha, how I make her upset, how I please her. So like this, the word Rama in the Hare Krishna Mahamantra is Radha Raman. Ha Nath Ramana Preshta Kwasi Kwasi Mahabaho. Radharani cries out to Radha Raman. Where are you, my lover? Where are you? Oh, my mighty armed, where are you? I'm simply trying to find you. Oh, Sri Krishna, reality the beautiful, where are you? So when we speak, when we utter those names, what to talk about katha? When we speak such katha, actually Krishna's ears, Lord Jagannath's eyes become widened, the mouth become widened, and he goes into these astasattvic vikars, especially when we speak such kathas. And Vraj, we speak about some rasik kathas, when we glorify Radharani, the gopis of Vrindavan, when we glorify the Vrajvasis, Krishna, Lord Jagannath is stupefied. As we know, the Katha, the Puranic Katha of Lord Jagannath, how he became in that form of Lord Jagannath because of the Vraj Prem. So similarly, uh, Mahaprabhu desired to, Krishna himself desired to hear Hari Katha because he knew that there's going to be a lot of nectar, a lot of ras coming from the lotus mouth of Rayaramananda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. बोलो श्री चैतन्य चरितामृत की जय, श्री कृष्णराज कविराज गोस्वामी ठाकुर की जय, श्री रामानंद राय जी की जय, परम करुणा पतित पावन महावदन न्याय श्री चैतन्य महाप्रभु की जय। गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि बोल, गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि बोल, गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि बोल।